All right, good afternoon. So we will start the class. So we have discussed most of the topics apart from solution of Navier-Stokes equation. So what we have discussed in the course till now, let me just give you a brief overview. So we have so for the finite volume method. So initially we had discussed other things like PDA, like partial differential equations and basics of CFD, then finite difference method. In the finite volume method, our target was to solve the general equation, general conservation equation, which has 4 terms. The unsteady term, the unsteady or transient term, the advective term, the diffusive term, and any source term, whatever extra source terms are present are clubbed together. Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have gone step by step. First, we started with without the advective term and without source term. We just started with the diffusive term and saw how to discretize it using finite volume method. And our aim was always to put the equations in the same form. What was the form? Like for ij grid point, any grid point which is denoted by its coordinates I and j, I comma j, or grid number I comma j, we have to write the variable value in terms of the neighboring variable values. So some coefficient aij into say phi ij is equal to summation of over all the neighboring points a and b, phi and b, plus whatever is the contribution of the source term b. So this was our idea. We have written it in terms of the conventional nomenclature, which is given as p for the ij grid point, and the neighboring points I plus 1j is known as east, I minus 1j is west, ij plus 1 is north, and ij minus 1 is south. And if you have 3D problem, then we also have top and bottom, P and B. So in that case, the index will be, indices will be I, J, K. And the neighboring points will be like I, J, K plus 1 and I, J, K minus 1 similarly. So you can calculate how many neighboring points will be. Excuse me. So after that, we have seen how to include the unsteady term, the source term. Excuse me. And then, so with that, like again, the form of the equation was same, and only the values of the coefficients change. And after that, in the previous chapter, we have seen how to calculate if the advective term is also present. So how to discretize the equation. Again, the form of the equations are same, but only the values of the coefficients will change. So the main idea is that once we can discretize, we can calculate the coefficients in terms of numerical values, obviously. So the coefficients have to be calculated. So it will be in terms of geometric parameters like delta x, delta y, delta z. Then thermophysical properties like conductivity, density, okay, Cp, so thermal diffusivity, solutal diffusivity. So this type of things, and velocity. So because of the advective term, there will be velocity also. So velocity will come also in the coefficient or Peclet number. So if you don't want to write in terms of velocity, we can write in non-dimensional form in terms of Peclet number, which takes into account the convective strength, advective strength, and diffusive strength. But the idea is to generate again the coefficients, calculate the coefficients, and then supply it to a general solver. So, like we have seen some solution algorithms like TDMA, line by line TDMA, Gauss-Seidel method, Jacobi method. So there are many others, hundreds of other types of solution algorithms. You can take any reference textbook and read about it. You don't have sufficient time in the course to study about those. Also, these are beyond the syllabus of the course. But whatever is the solver, which we can develop once, we can then supply it with the different coefficients for any problem, whether it's a conduction problem, convection problem, it's a thermal problem, it's a flow problem. It does not matter. ultimately only the values of the coefficients are going to change, and the variable is going to change. It can be U magnitude, V magnitude, temperature, concentration, like this. And the solver will take the as input the coefficients for each point. Remember, for each point there will be corresponding coefficients. If there are n points, there will be n number of equations, n unknowns, and for each point there will be a set of coefficients. And then using those, the solver can solve the. So solver, again, it can be based on any method. Like for a 1D problem, it can be a TDMA solver, or for a 2D or 3D problem, it can be based on like any form of matrix inversion or line by line TDMA. Okay, and then it will give the variable values for each of the points. So by solving the n equations and n unknowns, the equations will have coefficients which are derived from the coefficients of the discretized equations. So the only task that is left in finite volume method, apart from going into unstructured grids, which is an extra topic that we are going to study, is how to solve the flow field. Again, those who have already studied CFD will know, like at least couple of algorithms, 2 or 3 you might have studied. Simple, simpler. We will also study here simplex algorithm and piezo algorithm. Okay, so 4 algorithms we are going to see, and these special algorithms are needed because of certain amount of differences in the momentum equations as compared to any other conservation equation. So the momentum equations are somewhat different as compared to any other conservation equation because of the presence of the pressure variable. So additional variable pressure is present, which is also unknown, which was not present in any of the other equations. Just hold for a second. And there are other certain number of difficulties. So we are going to see those also today. Okay, let me see how many of you have joined. Quite a bit have joined. So before going into this, let us have a quick discussion about. So around 1 month is left in the course. It's a good time to discuss about what you can do in your project. Okay. And obviously, the expectation is not much because the time period is like a course project. It is not going to be like a BTech or MTech project, obviously. So, but it is up to you to decide what type of problem you are going to solve and what you are comfortable with. And basically, it is not about marks. It is about trying to learn CFD. So, as I have always insisted, you cannot learn CFD just by reading through the material. Okay, and we are unable to also do a lot of numerical problems because it is not possible to solve numerical problems in a short duration, like in an exam, because you need computer for solving these numerical problems. I can artificially create very simple problems, but those are impractical. Means I can say that there is a cylinder with 3 grid points, something like that, and ask you to solve manually by hand. But that is one is that those are cumbersome. Means ultimately you have to manually calculate for each point. That calculation will not lead you to learn anything new. So better to learn by implementing using a computer code and with realistic number of grid points. So the main practice will come from either by implementing some code for some say basic problems like simple heat transfer problem, conduction problem, or somewhat say advanced code using for basic convection. But again, you cannot in this short period. It is not possible to implement Navier-Stokes equation. So maybe the velocity field can be supplied. So even convective problems can also be solved by applying the velocity field to it. Velocity field may be known. For example, flow through a cylinder. We know the velocity field, but maybe the cylinder is heated from the side and you want to solve the temperature field by using numerical solution, using CFD, by supplying the flow field based on analytical solution. That type of problem also can be tackled. Other option is to try some commercial software like ANSYS or any other software. Okay. If you choose those type of software, there are certain advantages and disadvantages. Okay. So let me go in a more structured way. Okay. So I guess some of you at least might not have yet decided on what will be the project, or some of you might have started working or thinking, but many of you might not have started because we have not yet started in a formal way. So there are two options to you. Either you can do some coding or you can use a commercial software like ANSYS or say COMSOL, or which is also equation solver basically. There are other like Stars CCM Plus, and there are a few other softwares, but ANSYS is the most popular one, ANSYS Fluent. So there are certain advantages and disadvantages in either approach. Okay. So if you go by coding, then it gives you a better understanding of the implementation of different equations. So how to implement, what are the like small things also which are tricky. Means when you are implementing, you will find that it is not as easy as it seems while looking at the notes. Even say 1D conduction problem also, you might have to think a little bit more while solving using a numerical code. You might have to think, okay, how do I create the exact restructure? What will be the, how will I implement the boundary points? How to implement heat flux at the boundary? Although we have discussed those things, but doing it in practical life is a different thing as compared to just discussion on pen and paper. So you will have to think a little bit more. So those are the advantages. So you learn a lot about the equations and implementation. However, there are certain drawbacks. You cannot tackle a very challenging or very say complex geometry problem because you are limited by the, because you will have to implement it and you will have to create geometry also. It is not possible to create complex geometry while it is possible to create complex geometry while writing a code, but within the time time that is present for us, it will not be possible. Okay. So in real life, sometimes it's possible. So we can write codes which will read the geometry which is created by some other software like SolidWorks, and then along accordingly assign points, grid points, and other values. But within this framework of this course, it is not possible. So you can only go with a regular geometry like a 1D like bar or 2D plate or 3D cube, something like that, 3D cuboidal structure. Okay. Even you can tackle in cylindrical coordinate, you can tackle cylindrical problems like cylindrical geometries, pipe flow, okay, or heat transfer in a sphere in spherical coordinates. Those are also possible using coding. Then flow between two parallel plates, lot of things, lot of practical examples can still be solved. We should not get confused here that by coding we cannot solve any practical examples, because lot of practical problems can conform or can be simplified to a regular geometry. Okay, for example, again, it's a very important problem. Flow through a heated pipe. What will be the temperature and velocity profile? Or flow between two parallel plates. Okay, or heat transfer, say in a room which we can approximate as a rectangle with proper boundary conditions, radiation, convection. Everything can be implemented, and we do very practical problems also, more research oriented problems by coding. So, for example, we solve phase change processes like melting, solidification, dendritic microstructure evolution, materials problems, all by coding. So these are possible, but not within this short period. These are more like BTech or MTech projects. Then phase change materials, energy storage, all these are possible using coding. So a lot of practical problems can be addressed. Even very complex problems can be addressed, complex geometries, by putting the complex geometry within a rectangular geometry and just solving for the area which is represented by the complex geometry. So this still you cannot go to the depth of say complexity that is possible using a commercial software like ANSYS, because any type of complex geometries can be addressed by a commercial software. Okay. So that is the advantage in using commercial software, that you can tackle very complex problem, like you have a complicated mold and you want to study the filling of metal in that mold. It's a complex geometry with a lot of risers and runners, or you have flow over a aerofoil structure, or flow over a say flow around a car, okay, which has a complex shape. and you want to calculate what is the lift, what is the downforce, what is the velocity profile around the car. We can approximate it as a 2D problem by taking the 2D cross section of the car, but we cannot. So still we will have to solve it in the frame. Like it is easier to solve using commercial software. So these are the advantages. Disadvantages is that sometimes we tend to, because some of the like things are easier using commercial packages, like already the equations are implemented, we tend to not give too much thought about what equations are being solved, or how they are being implemented, how they have been implemented in the solver. We just select some data from there, so some algorithms like say simpler algorithm or piezo or whatever, okay, and first order, second order scheme, any of the schemes like upwind scheme or Borla scheme, and then try to select the other parameters like the under relaxation parameters, and uh, even the boundary conditions are also applied in a simplified way. Okay, because if you do not provide some of the boundary conditions, the problem or the solver will automatically assume those based on the other conditions like geometry, where the wall conditions can be automatically approximated. These things have to be specifically stated in when you are coding, but in software you don't have to state. So we sometimes tend to forget, or we are not clear about what are the exact implementation of the boundary conditions. So the clarity does not come. But the advantage is that you can tackle complex geometry problems, not complex physics. Complex physics can be tackled using coding also. It is easier to tackle complex physics using coding because you can implement or solve any equation. In ANSYS, you are limited by what are the equations they are solving. And if you want to tackle complex equation, it is possible, but you have to write subroutines for that. Extra variables you have to add, extra source terms you have to add in the equations. Try to modify the equations without knowing all the depth about, or in all depth, what are the equations you are trying to solve. So it sometimes becomes very tricky. Okay, then there are convergence issues, other issues. So it is up to you to decide what type of problem. So from my side, everything is fine. And from, so it will not matter also in terms of marks. Like any project is good, like if you can learn properly. And we will have a presentation towards the end of the course, like in the last class or something like that, where everybody has to present, and I will see what is your understanding. So it can be whatever type of problem you select. Again, I am saying you don't have to, it is not that a complex problem is always better. Somebody can just try to solve for say heat conduction in a 2D plane. But like properly with coding and like developing a proper code and trying to address proper boundary conditions, things like that. And that might be even better if it is done in a good way, okay, in a proper manner, instead of trying to do something haphazardly in okay, you can clear your understanding. Obviously, in this course, we are not going to learn about ANSYS. So that is not part of this course. That is part of the, there is another course in the next semester where you have a lab on simulations, and there, depending on the course instructor, this type of practical problems you will be doing hands-on. This is more like a theoretical course, but still I have incorporated the project so that you can learn something hands-on. So once you decide what is your project, you need to submit, not at the end, but say within 2 weeks, a brief 1 or 2 page report outlining your project. Okay, so what should be present there? So let me just explain quickly. And let me see whether I can write down. So say, I'm unable to write. Pen is not working. Let me check. Okay. Okay. Or let us write the actual course name. I tend to write as CFD, but course name is actually more useful. Although we call it computational fluid dynamics, but actually it is computational, both computational fluid dynamics as well as heat transfer, computational methods in thermal and fluid engineering. Okay. So you have to write. So what will be there in the report is just a one-page report, so that I know that what you are working on, and if you need any guidance, I can give some suggestions, so that towards the end you don't get stuck. If there is any difficulty, you will be clear in 2 weeks time. Okay, so you just decide what will be your project title. Start with your project title. You can see the whiteboard, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then what is your objective? Okay. So for example, let me give some examples also. So say I want to study. Very simple example. Okay. I want to study the flow through. Now flow equation will be too difficult to solve. If you want to do coding. Say I want to study melting in a box. Okay. So simulation of, say, writing is still difficult. Simulation of 2D melting in a square cavity. It is easier problem as compared to flow problem, because you don't have to solve for flow equations unless you want to actually solve melting with flow, which is very difficult. So this is like a heat transfer problem, but there is question. Okay. So then decide what will be your objective. So title, then objective. So for example, I want to see. So first I want to implement. I'm just giving you an example. Your project obviously will be different, so you have to think and discuss. You can discuss also in the next few classes, if you have any issues, any doubts. Implementation of. So give more specific objective. Okay. 2D heat transfer with melting. Okay. Without flow. So it is a very specific problem now. Without flow, without convection. So we know what equations need to be solved. We just need to solve energy equation. Okay. Then you can have another objective, for example, study the effect of again, I am just giving example just directly, like without thinking. You can think about other examples. Effect of boundary temperature on melting rate, and so on. We can decide other objectives also. 2-3 objectives. So one is implementing the code, checking whether it is working. So you can have a sub objective here, that to study whether the code is working correctly by comparing it with analytical solution, and then doing some analysis using the code. For example, I want to see, say, with different boundary temperature, whether the melting rate linearly increase or how does it increase, whether it increases in another way. Okay, or the total time required for melting. So we know that with higher temperature, time required for melting will go down, but whether it linearly goes down or what way it goes down, maybe that we can study. Or you can study the heat transfer. Okay, so something you can study. This is a very simple problem. You can take up a more say realistic problem. Say in electronics, cooling is there. Okay, and there is a fin or something or multiple fins, and then some convective flow. So using ANSYS, you can do that type of problem. So say we have a CPU, which is like you can just take the dimensions as a rectangular block or a CPU or a processor, and then say there is heat transfer using fins from there and some forced convection. And we can calculate with different velocities of forced convection what will be the temperature. So CPU is generating certain amount of heat depending on the processor. So say it generates say 50 watts of heat. So for what velocities, what will be the temperature, maximum temperature in the processor? How it varies with time, things like that. Or you can take like you can, if you are again using a commercial software, you can use complex. You can study the complex flow pattern in any different type of practical example, like flow over a car or a flow over a aerofoil structure, things like that. Okay, flow over a moving cylinder, flow over a cylinder. Flow over a cylinder is easy to study, but say somewhat complicated. But you can study in depth. Flow over a cylinder, you can calculate with different, or say flow over a blob body, say uh, square body or rectangular body is there, and a different angle of attacks or different flow angle, what will be the lift and drag, things like that also can be studied. Using coding, I can study. Again, there are a lot of practical problems, like what is the temperature variation in a room. I can approximate it as a 2D room with the conduction bed heat transfer and different boundaries at a different heat flux conditions, so radiation and convective heat flux condition. And we can see how the temperature changes if there are certain source terms within the room. Or say there's a heater in a box. Okay. So certain location I can take as heat source, and the rest of the area is like without any heat source. And depending on the heater location, how the temperature variation occurs in the box or in the room, that also can be studied. So many types of examples are there. So flow problem, for example, I was giving the example of say flow between two parallel plates and with heat transfer. So difficult to solve the Navier-Stokes equation, but we know what will be the flow pattern between two parallel plates. We have the analytical solution for that. So we can use that while solving the heat transfer equation. And we can try to see what is the effect of say different boundary temperature or boundary heat flux on the temperature variation within the fluid under say different velocities. So we can supply the code with the velocity profile directly based on analytical solution, but numerically solve the heat transfer equation. Okay, so there can be any type of problem. You think about it, use some creativity and come up with some ideas. So after the objective, what we need generally, what we do in a research project or research paper is we give a problem description. Okay. So problem description is given with a schematic diagram. So for example, what was the problem? Melting in a 2D. So that we had taken. So I can take a schematic I can draw a schematic diagram. So say this is my cavity. Okay. And we are trying to solve melting. So for example, this is liquid and this is solid. So this wall temperature I am going to call as T hot. And say these are adiabatic walls. Okay. So adiabatic walls, remember how to, so we have to denote it in terms of variable values. So adiabatic means there is no heat flux, minus k dt dx, okay, is equal to 0 for x direction. So for this direction, minus k del t del x, because here you have both the derivatives with respect to x and y. Del t del x equal to 0. For the y direction, del t del y equal to 0. Del t del y equal to 0. These are my boundary conditions. You need boundary condition for all boundaries, okay, in a problem. Even if you think that it's like not participating, still actually inherently there is a boundary condition. And then some initial condition. Okay, what will be the initial temperature? So I write that the initial, or say T at any location x, y at 0 time is equal to T initial, where T initial will be the value that I will provide. Okay, and this boundary is T for all j, but I is equal to 1, means I means, or x equal to 0. Okay, so say this is x equal to 0, x equal to say length 1, and y equal to 0, and this is y is equal to length 2. Okay. So P at x equal to 0 for all y, okay, and for all time is equal to T hertz. This is the boundary condition for the left boundary. Okay. So similarly for the right boundary, del T del x equal to 0 at what location? At x equal to L1 for all y and all time. Similarly, we can write for the top and bottom also. So initial and boundary conditions have to be specified also in the problem description apart from the geometry. So if you are taking a complex geometry, this is for my problem. But say if you want to take the flow over aerofoil, then you take accordingly what will be the geometry. Say this is the aerofoil structure you want to solve. And then you have to decide what will be the domain. How long will you want to take the domain? Because you have to take a domain around the aerofoil for solving the flow. Then what will be the inlet conditions if there is flow? So what is the exit condition? Okay. So if you're just solving for flow without heat transfer, you will have to solve in a 2D problem. You have to solve u velocity and v velocity equations. ANSYS will solve that if you are using ANSYS. But you need to know what are the boundary conditions for u. So for example, here I can decide that u is equal to some u infinity. Okay, constant velocity, faraway velocity, and v is equal to 0. So for all boundaries, we will have to have boundary condition for all the variables being solved. So both u and v. Okay, so this, if this we decide as a wall, then del u del y, sorry, u is equal to 0 and v is equal to 0. Okay. So wall condition is, so without any slip. So again, there can be slip also. E is equal to 0. Similarly here, it is up to you to describe. And what will be the initial condition, length, and other things? Those things should be described in the problem description. Then you write the boundary conditions and initial conditions. Okay. So for example, initial condition in the document, what you are preparing, at T equal to 0, temperature for all grid points is some T initial. Okay, we can specify later while solving the problem what is the T initial value. Then boundary conditions. Again, you specify. So boundary condition is valid for all time. Okay, so for all time. So for the left boundary, you can say what will be the boundary condition. T is equal to T hot. Okay. You can even write mathematically like I have written. For the right boundary, you can again say, so del T del x equal to 0. Similarly for the bottom and top, or you can write mathematically. So this actually clarifies what is the problem description. Then what we do, we have to write the mathematical model. Okay, I will show you, summarize everything at the end. What equation you are going to solve, in what form, that is the mathematical model. Like, for this problem we are going to solve energy equation, 2D energy equation, right? Without any flow, but unsteady. So del T of rho CPT. Okay, but again, melting is occurring, so it's a more complex problem because there can be sensible energy and latent energy. So our equation actually becomes somewhat complex. So you might not understand at this point. You have to do some literature review, but so the equation will not only have sensible energy, but also some latent energy term should be there. Okay. So rho CPT plus some rho into some liquid fraction. Okay, some volume fraction of liquid. Okay, I can write this as phi L. So the latent energy is generally written in this form. Okay. Again, it is, you don't have to worry about it unless you are solving a melting problem. For melting, this is the equation. Okay. The unsteady term is in this form. So we call this as enthalpy. CPT is the sensible enthalpy and this phi LL is the latent enthalpy. So we generally write this as del rho H del T is equal to, so there is no unsteady term, del X of K del T del X plus del Y of K del T del Y, because we are solving in 2D. Okay. There is no source term unless we are trying to solve for a heater. So there is no source term. So then we have to simplify and so see, mathematical model is not what is the initial equation. Okay, so I have to simplify it in a form that I can solve. So for our case, this will become, I can solve this form of the equation if I write in terms of everything in terms of T. Again, don't worry if you are not solving a melting problem, it's just an example. And these equations you can find from literature, from any paper. So this term I can write, because this does not have any T, I can write as, I can take to the other side, I can write as. Okay. So this will become my source term. This I have to solve as a source term. So this I can write as some S. Okay. So then this is the equation that I need to solve with the boundary conditions and initial conditions already declared above. Okay. And if any additional things are there, that also we have to write in the mathematical model. For example, we know that at the interface of the solid and liquid, one additional condition will be required for this problem. If you think later, you will understand. Okay. So the temperature is equal to temperature of melting, whatever is the melting temperature. So this will give us the location of the interface and will give us the liquid fraction value. Anyway, so for your problem, you have to decide what will be the equation and what you are going to solve. Or if you are using ANSYS, what are the equations that you are going to solve? And there is a lot of literature for that. You can take a simple or complex problem. So this part you have to submit. Okay. Your project title, your name of course has to be there, and objective, what problem you are trying to solve, problem description. Okay. With a schematic diagram showing the initial and boundary condition and other description of the problem. Then write the initial and boundary condition. Then the mathematical model. Okay. And if you have any confusion, so you can clarify it at that point or before that. Okay. So that towards the end of the project, suddenly you don't have anything to show. That type of problem does not come. Okay. So in the next class, so you think about this, what will be the project? So it needs to be an individual project. Okay. Or we want to go in pairs. So I think very less students are there. We can do individual projects. So I can evaluate better. Better to go with individual projects. Of course, you can take the help of your friend, but everybody should do an individual project. And we have very few number of students, so we can have short presentations towards the end of the course. Okay. Even if I have 12 minutes presentation, so then also 5 per hour. So 4 hours, 10 minutes presentation, say 6 per hour. So in 3 hours we can finish towards the end. So 2 classes last week. is sufficient, or after the exam if time does not permit. So this is the idea. Okay. So you decide and you think about it, discuss with your friends, and come up with some ideas. If you have any confusion, you can ask me in the next classes. And say you have to submit this in 2 weeks' time. So the Wednesdays before Wednesday's class, 3rd November. You can submit. I will create an assignment for this so that you can submit online instead of sending me through email. Okay. You can just submit it along with your automatically it will store along with your name in the assignment in Teams. Any questions? Particularly the new students who may not be familiar with this type of process, or the math students. You can take a more mathematical problem also. I'm telling about the math students, PhD students who are there in the math. Madhumita and Priyal. So take a more mathematical approach instead of trying, because you may not be familiar with the CFD solvers like ANSYS and other things. You can try to take say some PD or something like and try to use finite volume or finite difference method to solve it and do a more mathematical analysis. Say that also is fine, or you can take any of the say temperature equation and try to study or implement it writing a code and try to tackle a relatively say, practical problem or even theoretical problems. I have no issue whether it's a practical problem or just a completely theoretical problem is also fine. And students previously have managed to do very interesting projects also. So like rocket propulsion, electronic cooling in a computer, then flow over a moving aerofoil structure. Many types of complex problem many students have tackled over the time period, like last 2-3 years. You can say very interesting type of problems students have tackled. Very complex problems or some very advanced mathematical problems. Some students have tried using coding. So, like just trying to solve an equation with different types of discretization scheme and trying to see what is the accuracy, how the accuracy changes. So simple problems, a 1D conduction problem, but with different schemes, and then trying to compare the accuracy. That type of problems also is very interesting, and students have tried to compare it with analytical, like or say what is the order of accuracy, like that. So there are various approaches that you can think about. I can in the next class I can tell you more about some other topics that students have tried. I don't remember. I remember the rocket propulsion case. Somebody had tried electronics cooling, then this type of accuracy. Then I guess moving aerofoil structure, flow through fins, different type of fin structure, triangular fins, things like that. What is the effect of flow? That also one student had tried. Then I think flow in a heated duct or something like that. Okay. Then I don't remember anymore. With time I can. I think some melting and solidification problems were also there. Okay. So this is the idea. Any questions? Or anything you don't understand or at this point, or if you think about it in the next class you can ask. Later on, if you can just discuss with others, try to come up with some idea, or you are confused, if you are not finding a problem, let me know in the next couple of classes so that I can suggest some problems which you can tackle. Okay? Because it might be difficult for you to understand or judge what is feasible within a limited time period. So you might take a more complex problem and later see that it is not as easy as you were thinking. Okay. So if you have not experienced with lot of CFD problems, it is difficult sometimes to judge or to define a problem in a well-defined fashion so that it can be solved within a limited time. We have gained the experience because I have uh, defined so many projects and BTech, MTech projects. So I have an understanding now of about what is feasible within a particular duration. So you can get my suggestions also if you are unable to come up with. But I suggest that you come up with your own ideas so that you can, like, it will help you in critical thinking. Any suggestions from the students who had done CFD courses with me previously? Like anything you want to add? Because you are already familiar. But I think the last time we ran out of time, so could not have proper presentations. But this time we have sufficient time. Tanmay, you are there? Tanmay, you have any suggestion?
No, sir.
Okay. MTech students, Kashif, Dushyant.
Yes, sir.
There? Or any questions? Selvan. I think 20 or 25% marks are there for the project. I have to check. 20% was there, I guess. 10% for the assignment. Madhumita, Priyal.
Yes, sir.
I cannot hear Madhumita.
Yes,
Your
sir.
mic is. Are you saying something? Is it clear to you? What needs to be done?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, fine. So then we will continue with our normal classes, normal discussion. We'll take a break now. We'll continue with our discussion on the solution of fluid flow equation. And we are trying to see if we'll try to study 4 schemes: simple, simpler. These are very widely used. Okay, simpler is very widely used. Simple is a more like, it is still very widely used, but because simpler is already a better algorithm. So anyway, the names will be clear later on. We have not discussed. I'm just naming them. And we'll study simplex and ISO. And after that, we will study about unstructured grids, how to discretize in unstructured grids, and do some numerical problems, which is possible in those type of situation. We will take a break, 5 minutes, and join after 5 minutes. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir.
We'll continue then. Okay. So, calculation of flow field. Okay. So, why we are studying this separately? Because previously we had discussed that all the governing equations are of the same form, right? So we had discussed that all the governing equations lead to this form: del T of rho phi plus del dot rho u phi plus del dot gamma del phi plus some source term, whatever extra is there. Okay. So then we have already seen how to discretize this equation. And I have said that we can discretize any of the equations like temperature, concentration. Okay. There are the equations also, turbulent kinetic energy. So many types of equations can be there, okay, which can be solved using the discretization schemes that we have studied. So then the question comes, why we are studying the flow equation separately? Because the flow equation is also of the same form. If you see, we can replace phi by the u magnitude or v magnitude of velocity, and it will be of the same form. Only extra term will be that some pressure term will be there. Okay. So why we are studying is differently is that it is slightly of different nature because of the following reasons. So there are certain difficulties. Okay. One is that the pressure field is also unknown. Okay, and it is part of the equation. So if you remember the momentum equation, let me just show you once, then we will discuss. So these are the typical momentum equations. So all three can be combined in this form: del T of rho u plus del dot rho u. These are vector u. Okay. So this u has u magnitude, v magnitude, and w magnitude in a 3D problem. For a 2D problem, it consists of u and v. 1D problem, it's only u. Okay. So is equal to del dot mu del u. Okay, this is the viscous term minus gradient of pressure plus body force terms. Okay, body force terms are like gravity terms, gravity or centrifugal force, any force which acts over the entire body and is not a boundary condition. So this equation actually comprises of three equations in a 3D problem, of two equations in a 2D problem, and a single equation in a 1D problem. So in a 3D problem, the x momentum, in a 2D problem, it's a 3D. Okay, in a 3D problem, the x momentum equation can be written as, so you will have three equations: x, y, and z momentum. Okay, so each of the equation will be of this form. So I have just shown one of the equations, the x momentum equation. You will be able to write y and z momentum equations also similarly. Okay. So this del T of rho u, this becomes this term, del T of rho u magnitude. U is the magnitude of velocity in the x direction. V is the magnitude in y direction, and w in the z direction. Okay. Then this del dot rho u term, this actually leads to three components: del x of rho u, del y of rho vu, and del z of rho wu. Okay. This is for the x momentum. For the y momentum, we will have three terms like del x of rho uv, del y of rho vv, and del z of rho wv. So this second velocity will change with the equation, and the first velocity magnitude will change in each equation for the three terms. Then three viscous terms will be there: mu del square u del x square. From this it comes mu del square u del y square and mu del square u del z square. Similarly, for the y momentum equation, you will have del square v del x square, del square v del y square, means mu del square v del y square and mu del square v del z square. Okay. Then pressure term for the x momentum equation is minus del p del x. For the y and z also, you can write similarly: del p del y and del p del z. And bx is the any body force term if it is present. It can be zero also if there are no body forces. Y momentum equation, generally y is the vertical direction we take for a 2D problem. So in that case, the body force, there is the gravity force minus rho g, which is generally taken into account in by. Okay. If there are other forces like centrifugal forces or some electromagnetic forces, that also will come here. So this is just, don't have to memorize this, but you should know what are the importance of each of the term. Okay, we have discussed in the beginning of the course also. So now you can see that the form is similar. So it is written in 3D here, but if you write in 2D or 1D, you will see that it is exactly of the same form as the general convective diffusion equation. As this general convection diffusion equation, it is of the same form. So I have this. So say phi is u magnitude. So del del t of rho u plus del dot rho u u is the vector and then u magnitude. So this will be these three terms. And del dot gamma del u. Again, u is the u magnitude because phi we are replacing with u magnitude and gamma will be viscosity. So we have this additional term, pressure gradient, which was not present here. And the source terms are again the source terms. So it is of the same form. Then why is the difficulty? One is that the pressure is unknown. And because pressure is unknown, we are not putting it as part of the source term. Generally, source terms are known. So we are separately writing it. Okay. So this is one of the difficulty. So we need to also find the pressure. And there is no equation for the pressure. So how will we find the pressure? We will see later that we have one additional equation which goes along with the momentum equation, which is the continuity equation. Okay. So mass conservation equation. Momentum is like the force balance and this is like the mass balance. Okay. Continuity equation, which is given as del rho del t plus del dot rho u equal to 0. Again, we have discussed in the beginning. If you go back, you can study the notes if you don't remember. Okay. So for this problem, it will be in the scalar form. You can write this as del rho del t plus del x of rho u plus del y of rho v plus del z of rho w equal to 0. So this equation does not have any pressure, but this is an additional equation. We will see that we have to derive or use some clever strategy to derive a equation for pressure from this continuity equation, okay, which we will do later. So 4 equations will be present and 4 unknowns, the 3 velocities and the pressure. The pressure is a scalar, right? There is a single pressure at any point, but there are 3 velocity magnitudes at any point. So 4 unknowns and 4 equations. The other difficulty is that, so first difficulty is the pressure is unknown and there is no direct equation of pressure. The other difficulty is that, I will remove this now, which was not present in the previous cases, is that the equations are non-linear. Okay. In the previous cases, we were assuming here that u is already known. Okay, so only the unknown was this phi. It could have been non-linear if this gamma is function of say temperature. So if you are solving for temperature equation and conductivity is a function of temperature, like in real life problems, or density is a function of temperature, then it becomes non-linear. And then again, the same problem is still there also. And what is the solution for that? If there is non-linear problem, we have to go with iterative solution. We will discuss later. Okay. So for example, we have to assume some value of temperature, and then with that assumed value of temperature, we can find what will be the value of density or conductivity and solve it to find the new value of temperature. Finding the new value of temperature, we can then use that to find or to calculate density and conductivity and find again the new value of temperature. And we can just go on like this. So this is known as iteration. And if we continue like this, a time will come when there is not much change happening in the value of temperature. If there is not much change happening in the value of temperature, we say that the solution has converged and this is the correct solution. Okay. So same thing has to be done here because the momentum equations are non-linear. We have terms like this u, okay, u. So unknown terms are like coefficient will have itself have unknown terms. Okay, coefficient will have velocity terms which itself are unknown. And the other problem is that the equations are coupled. Okay, so if we try to solve the u equation, we also have the unknown v and unknown w. Similarly, if we try to solve the v equation, we have the unknown u and unknown w. Then pressure is also coupled. So we have 4 equations and 4 unknowns which have to be solved together. We cannot solve them individually because they are coupled together. So we have to solve the 4 equations and 4 unknowns directly. So one thing is there, if the pressure field is known by some means, okay, or for example, some like using experimentation or theoretically, the pressure is known. pressure is supplied to us. Then it is not difficult to solve the problem. We can just solve the problem in the same manner like we have done here using iterative scheme. Okay, we can, so it becomes like we can use any of the methods that we have developed till now to solve the equations. If the pressure field is known or guessed or given to us, we can just solve the momentum equations using any of the methods. So, for example, we can say, take upwind scheme or any other scheme for the treatment of the convective term. Similarly, diffusion term we know how to tackle, other terms we know how to tackle. Whatever we have developed is still fine. Okay. Only thing is that we have to go for iterative solution. It's a 2D or 3D problem. And 1D problem anyway, there will be only one u velocity variable. We can just solve it directly. So, to summarize what we have discussed, the issue of nonlinearity and coupled equation can be tackled using iterative method. Okay. So how to tackle this? So for example, these terms which are present. This rho u, rho vu, rho wu. Okay. So this causes the nonlinearity and the coupling, right? So we can assume that one of these is already known, okay, from the previous iteration, or we will just guess that value. So for example, we can say that u, v, and w are known here, and those are represented by u star, v star, and w star. Okay. So using those values, like I am just guessing the value of u, v, and w and writing it as u star, v star, and w star. So it will become known value because it's you already guessed it. So there is no other unknown. So u is the only unknown. Okay, if pressure is given, so we can just solve it and we can find the value of u. Using the new value of u, we can replace the u star. Similarly, we can solve the y momentum equation and find the value of v. So that v will become the new value of v star. Okay, and similarly, w will become the new value of w star. Again, we will solve, find again new value of u, v, and w, and continue like this until we see that there is not much change occurring in the value of u, v, and w. So now, how do we quantify that not much change is happening? Can anyone answer? Like when we will say that the solution has converged, at what point? How will we do it mathematically?
Sir, if percentage change is below a specified value.
Yes, so good. So if the percentage change, say in the previous iteration, we know what is the value of u, and in the current iteration, we know the value of u. So this difference by the current iteration value of u, this gives the percentage change of u that has occurred in the last iteration. If this is below a certain tolerance value, tolerance we have to set. So we can set it like 10 to the power minus 4, minus 5, minus 6, depending on our requirement. So if I want to solve quickly with less number of iterations, I can, but I am not bothered about accuracy too much. I can set it like 10 to the power minus 3, okay, which is relatively lower accuracy, like 0.1% error will be there. But if I want a very accurate solution, I can set it like 10 to the power minus 6 relative error. So very less error will be there, but it will take more iterations to reach that level of accuracy. So more time will be required for, much more extra time will be required for solving. Okay. So there is a compromise that is required. Either you go for high accuracy or quick simulation. Okay. So depending on what is your requirement. If there is a very complex problem with large number of grid points, then we have no option. We have to go with somewhat lesser accuracy. Otherwise, it will take so much time that we cannot solve it in a practical time period. Okay. So this tolerance, the comparison with the tolerance of the relative error has to be done for all the grid points. Okay. And then for all the grid points, if it is satisfied, then only we can say that we have, so the solution has converged. If it is, say there are 10,000 points and for one point it is not satisfied, then also we cannot just go for the next time step. We have to then again go for another iteration until that value has also converged for that grid point. Okay. So for all grid points and for all equations, we have to check. So here we have three equations, u, v, and w. So we have to check for all the three equations for all the grid points. Okay. So this is given if the p value is given. But if p is not given, then we have to derive an equation for pressure, and there comes the difficulty in solving the momentum equations. Okay, momentum and continuity equation, because you have to find the equation of pressure, and there is no equation of pressure directly. So we have to devise some clever strategy to find the equation of pressure. And people over the years have devised different, very ingenious and very like creative strategies to find the equation of pressure. We will study some of those. There can be many other strategies. Later, like researchers are still doing research in this area. So we can like there is scope for even going for coming up with even better ideas in future also. Okay, but the thing is that this continuity equation has to use in some way to find the equation for pressure. Okay, that is the most difficult part. Otherwise, we could have solved the equations iteratively using any of the techniques that we have discussed previously. Okay, we'll still be using those techniques only, but we need some additional solution methodology or solution scheme to tackle the pressure, unknown pressure. Okay, but for the momentum equations, we will still be using those techniques only. And this pressure has to be calculated from the continuity equation, which we have discussed. These are the main difficulties, and so as a result, we have separate schemes for solving the momentum equations. Some particular schemes like what names I was mentioning. Any questions? So there are some other difficulties which arise in some cases, certain cases. Let us look at those. Okay. So if we want to discretize this pressure gradient, okay, this is the pressure gradient, right? Minus del P del X for the X momentum equation. So say let us consider a 1D problem, okay, to simplify the discussion. But whatever we discuss is also valid for 2D and 3D. But to simplify the discussion, we will consider a 1D problem. So for 1D problem, we just have minus dp. So there is only one momentum equation, the X momentum equation, and our equation will be del del T of rho u plus del del X of. So say it is even it's a steady state. Okay, so there is no time dependence also. So d dx of rho u is equal to mu del d square u dx square minus dp dx plus whether any body force term is there. Okay. So minus dp dx is the pressure gradient term. So if we want to integrate it, okay, what we do in finite volume method, we integrate this all the terms going over the control volume. Okay. So for this 1D control volume, we have to integrate it going from west to east. Okay. So integral of west to east minus dp dx dx. Okay, we are integrating along the x, so that is why this dx is present. And if we do this, it will come as p west minus p east because of the minus sign. So minus of p east minus of p at this point minus at this point. So we can write this as p at this point minus p at this one. So pressure at this west interface minus pressure at this east interface. This is the integral of pressure gradient term. Okay, for a 1D problem. For 2D and 3D, it will be of similar form, but there will be an area. What is the area? Cross-sectional area through which this flow is occurring. That will also be there as a coefficient. We will see later. Now we do not store the pressure we do not store any variables at the interface, right? We have only values at the grid points. If you remember our finite volume method correctly, we only store the values at the grid points, like temperature is stored at the grid point. Okay. Similarly, any variable is stored at the grid point. So pressure also is stored at this point. So if this point is I comma j, so it's only 1D problem. So this is denoted by I. This is I plus 1. This is I minus 1. So pressure here is Pi. Okay. So and next point will be Pi plus 1. So only at this point pressure unknown. So at the interfaces, then what we will have to do? We have to interpolate. So what is the easiest way to interpolate? We can just take the average. Okay. If this is midway, we can write this as E at west is equal to pressure at this interface is equal to this pressure plus this pressure. P of P capital P plus P capital W by 2. Okay. Similarly, at the east interface, pressure is equal to P capital P capital plus P capital E by 2. Okay. The neighboring grid points values divided by 2. So if you do like this, we can find the interface pressure in terms of the grid point pressures, and we can write that here in the discretized form. So this becomes then west to east minus dp dx pw plus pp minus p by 2. Okay, so ultimately pp gets cancelled. So you are left with p capital W minus p capital E by 2. This is the form. Okay. So p at this point minus p at this point by 2. What is the problem with this? With this form? All students will know because this has been discussed in the CFD also. What can be the possible problems in this form of writing? So there are two problems here. Okay. One is that the pressure that we are calculating is based on a coarser grid. Okay, so if we have 200 grid points and our delta x is say 1 millimeter, delta x is the difference or the length scale of one control volume. Okay, or difference between two grid points, distance between two. For the pressure, we are using grid size which is 2 times the normal grid size. Okay, so because we are calculating based on 2 delta x, so we are using a coarser grid. Okay, so pressure calculation is based on a coarser grid, which will lead to lower accuracy. But that is okay. That is not a big problem. The big problem comes from the point that we do not have any representation of this point P in the pressure equation, discretized pressure equation. So even if we have very unrealistic value of pressure here also, our discretized equation minus dp dx, discretized equation for minus dp dx will still be satisfied if P is equal to Pw. Okay. So let us see an example. Say this is the pressure, some unrealistic pressure field. This can happen like artificially if you create a pressure field, but very unrealistic. Okay, so 100, then 10, then 100, then 10, like this. Now, in actual case, if this is the case, there should be some strong flow happening because there is a sharp pressure gradient from 100 to 10. So there will be a sudden flow in this direction, then another flow should be in this direction. Obviously, it cannot happen, this type of flow, but it should have happened. Okay, if this is the pressure gradient. But what our equation says, if this is the point P, this is point P. Okay, this is east and this is west. So our discretized scheme says that Pw minus P by 2. Okay, this is the pressure gradient. So our scheme says that pressure gradient is 0 because 100 minus 100 by 2 is 0. Obviously, there is a large pressure gradient at the interfaces, but our scheme is not able to calculate this. This is a big problem. It's very unrealistic or very unnatural pressure gradient, which should lead to some unrealistic flow pattern, is taken as no pressure gradient in this discretized form. Okay. So this, to summarize this, in some cases, very wavy and unphysical pressure field will also satisfy the discretized pressure gradient, and no effect will be felt on the velocity. Okay. This is a larger problem. Okay. This should not. We cannot have this type of problem in our solution algorithm. Okay. So some mechanism needs to be devised to avoid this problem. Either we have to interpolate pressure in a better way, okay, so these terms in a better way, taking more points, or we have to come up with some other strategy. So this is one problem. Any questions? Similarly, we can have similar type of another problem while discretizing the continuity equation. Okay. So again, for this 1D problem, the form of the continuity equation, if you remember the continuity, just now we have discussed, del rho del T plus del dot rho U is equal to 0. For a steady state problem, there is no del rho del T term. And for 1D problem, only U velocity term will be there. So we can write the continuity equation as du dx equal to 0. Okay. So integrating the continuity equation over this same grid structure. Okay. So du dx equal to 0. So going from west to east using our finite volume methodology, u dx equal to 0. Or u at this point, u at east minus u at west equal to 0. Now we do not have the u values here, right? We are again storing the values at the grid points. So again we have to interpolate the velocity value here. We can write this u at east as u capital east, means at this point plus at this point divided by 2. Okay, similarly, the u here is, we can interpolate as the u at p point plus w point divided by 2. If you write that, you will get that up and up gets cancelled, and we are left with ue minus uw equal to 0. Okay. So now look at this unphysical velocity field. Say the u velocity is 5, 1, 5, 1 like this. Obviously, this does not satisfy the continuity equation. Okay. It cannot happen because this, if you just integrate, it will lead to constant u. Okay, u should be constant. Okay, there cannot be any variation of u in a 1D problem because density is also not changing. It's a steady state problem. So this is unphysical, but our equation says that, so for this point, if this is the p point, we are writing our discretized equation as u at east minus u at west. Okay, so 5 minus 5. So our equation is still satisfied even for this very unphysical problem, which should not have been satisfied. Okay, so this is because of this interpolation, this problem is happening. Okay. So again, so this type of problems are arising even in the discretization of the continuity equation. So these are some additional problems that needs to be tackled. So we have to either devise some better strategies for interpolation or come up with a new strategy. Okay. So although we have discussed this with respect to 1D and 1D problem, so these are present in 2D and 3D problems also. So we will see one strategy which can be used to avoid this problem, and that is something which is known as using staggered grids. Okay, so I will define what is staggered grids. If we use staggered grids for solving the velocity or for storing the velocity, we can avoid this problem. So what is this staggered grid? So grids can be of two types, okay, depending on how you store the velocities. So apart from velocities, in general, all the other scalar quantities, all the other quantities are scalar, like pressure, temperature, concentration, then other properties like density, rho, then conductivity K, Cp, okay, viscosity. All these are stored at the grid points, okay, which are at the center of the control volumes. Like all these are stored at this point, then at this point, these points, okay, only at the control volumes, and it has to be appropriately interpolated. Like for the conductivity, we can interpolate using harmonic mean. So now we have two choices. We can also store the velocities also. Velocity means u magnitude, v magnitude, w magnitude also at these points. Pressure is always stored at these points, but we can also store the velocities also at this point, and then interpolate in a better way the interface values to avoid these problems. Okay. If you are storing the velocities also at the same points as pressure and temperature, that type of grid structure is known as collocated grid structure. Okay. Co-located means located at the same point. Okay. So all the variables are defined on the same grid points. The other way is that we'll store all the pressure, temperature, and other variables apart from the velocities at these grid points, but we will store the velocities at the interfaces. Okay. We will see how this is done and what is the advantage of doing that. Okay. If we store the velocities, for example, the u velocities are stored at these interface points, okay, not at the grid points. We don't know what is the velocity here, but we do know what is the velocity at this interface. So at the center point, if you want to calculate the velocity now, you have to interpolate based on these values, but interface values are directly present. Okay. If you do this way of storing the velocities, it is known as staggered grid. Okay. So the scalar variables such as temperature, pressure, and density are defined on the main grid points. Velocity variables u, v, and w are defined on grid points. on the faces of the control volume. So for a 1D control volume, these were the faces, right? For a 1D control volume, these were the faces. Okay, for a 2D control volume, we will see, and similarly for 3D also. So on the faces, the velocities are stored. It means that the grid points for the velocity, and we will be calculating using this grid. So we will assume that these are the grid points. These points are the grid points for the u velocity. Okay, so using this offset grid points, we will be calculating the velocity components. Okay, so while solving the momentum equation. So for the momentum equation, the domain will be different. Okay, as we will see later, just now. So the grid points for the velocities are offset or staggered from the main grid points. Okay, and it means that the control volumes are also staggered. So for the u velocity, this will be the control volume. Means going from P to capital E. And for the u velocity stores at the center of its own control volume. But this is the face of the main control volume. This is only the control volume for u. For all the other variables, the variables are stored in this control volume. Okay. So that is the idea behind offset control volume. So what is the advantage, we will see in a minute. But let me show you how this storing is done in a 2D case. Any question? You will get a better idea from a 2D case as compared to 1D case. Okay. So if this is the 2D grid structure, okay, and this is the main control volume, which I am highlighting now. Sorry. This is the main control volume. It is represented again at its center by the grid point P, and its neighboring control volume is this one, top and bottom. So this is the east, west grid point, north, not top and bottom, north and south is the appropriate term. Okay. So these are the grid points. Okay. In terms of ij, we can write this as the grid point as I comma j, this one. Okay, where I is changing in this direction, I is increasing. I is the index along the x direction, and j is the index along the y direction for each control volume. So this point will become I plus 1 comma j because I has increased, but j is same, height is same. This will be I minus 1 comma j. This is I j plus 1 and this is I j minus 1. So these are the main grid points. And we will be storing temperature, pressure, density at these grid points. Now for the u velocities, the grid point and the control volume are shifted in the x direction. Okay. So this will be the control, the black outline that is shown here. Okay. Black outline. Let me highlight with a different color. The black outline which was shown here originally, I'm highlighting with blue. This is the control volume for this u velocity. Okay. For this u velocity, and this grid point, corresponding grid point, is at the center of this control volume, but at the face of the main control volume. And the face of this u control volume actually passes through the grid points or the center of the main control volumes. Okay. So it is offset by half control volume along the x direction. Actually, this will be the control volume. So it is moved to the left side by half control volume. So this will be uij. Okay. And this will be ui plus 1j. So u is only offset along the x direction, not along the y direction. Okay. Similarly, the v magnitudes. Okay. V magnitudes are offset. The control volumes or v magnitudes are offset along the y direction. For example, light. Okay. This is the control volume, originally given by sky blue color for the v magnitude. Okay, so v is stored at the center of this control volume, but it is actually at the face of the main control volume. And this face of this v are actually at the grid points or the center of the main control volumes. Okay, so it is staggered in the y direction, offset in the y direction, but not in the x direction. So V is stored here, then V is stored here. So this will be Vi comma j, and this will be Vi comma j plus 1. It is shifted by half control volume towards the downward direction. Okay. So, or we can also write in terms of our nomenclature UE, UW, Vn, and Vs. Okay. So velocities are known here. So U is Ui plus 1j, as I have described. UW is Uij. Similarly, Vn is Vij plus 1 and Vs is Vij. Okay. So this mechanism or this shifting process for storing the variables U and V, and if there is W, it will be also shifted in the top and bottom direction, is known as staggering. Okay, and the grid structure is known as staggered grid structure. So important thing to note here is that U is shifted only along the x direction, V is shifted only along the y direction. Okay. So what will happen by using this is that the pressure field, the pressure between two grid points, automatically becomes the driving force for this velocity. Okay, when you are solving for the velocity magnitude, this equation, so say this is the control volume. Okay, say this control volume for U. Okay, let me use another highlight. This control volume for U. So for this control volume, we need to solve the U momentum equation, and this del P del X term then automatically will become PP minus PW or PW minus PP. And pressures here are known, so we don't have to interpolate. So while solving the momentum equation for U, okay, we are using the staggered grid, right? And the pressures are stored at the faces of the at the interface of the staggered grid. So automatically we can calculate the pressure difference. Okay. So the problems that we were facing will be avoided. Okay, both the problems will be avoided. Okay. The pressure difference between two adjacent grid points becomes the driving force for velocity component between this problem. So the problems related to discretization of pressure or continuity terms are eliminated. Okay. Continuity equation will still be solved for the main control volumes. We will see later because we will be solving using continuity equation for pressure. So for solving continuity equation, our grid point will be control volume will be like this because we will be solving for pressure. And in that case, del U del X term can be written only as in terms of interface values, and we don't have to interpolate them. This term will just become U at this point minus U at this point, and we know the U at this point and this point. It's directly from the momentum equation. So no interpolation is required. Okay. So these are the advantages. What are the disadvantages? Staggered grids cannot be defined for unstructured grid. Unstructured means there is no proper structure, like there is no proper, you cannot say that grid number is increasing along the x direction and y direction. So if I have a grid structure like this, okay, something like this, very random type of, this is unstructured grid. Okay. So it can be triangles, quadrilaterals, pentagons, hexagons, we will discuss later. But there is no regular pattern in which the grids are arranged. Okay. They are randomly arranged. And this is also common for complex problems. Okay. In this case, you can, because you cannot say how I and J are defined, you cannot shift also the velocity grids. So we cannot define staggered grid for unstructured grid. And for even for structured grid also, because you need to store at more points. Okay, you need to define more geometrical parameters. Parameters in the sense that control volume. The computational effort required for storing and calculating increases. Okay. More computational effort is required for staggered grids. Okay. But for this structured grid problems, the benefits are too like considerable as compared to say, the increase in computational effort. So we generally prefer staggered grids for structured grid problems. Okay. So I think we will stop here today because if we start this simple, I want to finish it in one class. So we will continue this discussion. We will go into the first algorithm, simple algorithm, in the next class, and we will see how that is defined. Okay, and then simpler algorithm and all the other Any questions? These are all there in the book by Patankar. Okay. Patankar, as we will see later, actually was one of the pioneers in CFD. He devised this some of the important schemes in finite volume method, including the simpler algorithm, okay, which when he was a doctoral student, PhD student, along with his guide. So that's why we still refer to his book, because it is one of the most fundamental books in CFD. It's very highly cited also. So these are present. If you want to go into somewhat more details, you can find them in the book, but not much more details are present. So book is also like a notes, very short and to the point. Questions? Otherwise, we will. There are no questions. We will meet the next class, which is next Monday. Okay. Think about the project problem and come up with some ideas.